Yeah, clearly Honda got the memo that this is the 50th anniversary of the AMA National Motocross Championship, aka DBA, Lucas Oil Pro Motocross, because Honda's also celebrating 50 years of racing in the United States. The seminal Elsinore machine and their old school heroes like Marty Smith. Well, they celebrated the night before the race. They rented out a winery. They debuted the 2023 Honda CRF line, including a special 50th anniversary edition of the bike, which will have the retro look of the gold rims and the blue seat. And then they made the race bikes in that same livery for Saturday. And credit to the riders and their gear brands for putting together great old school looking homage gear. If you're Fox Racing, well, heck, you made the gear for Rick Johnson back in the day, so it was kind of easy to replicate that look with Ken Roczen. But for Alpine Stars, who works with the Lawrence brothers and Chase Sexton, good job at making the stuff look old. Now, I'm not an overly retro guy. I've been a fan forever. Yes, I remember those seminal Team Honda, Rick Johnson days. But I always feel like when we talk retro, we forget the bad, we only remember the good, and that's why we always say things used to be better. I don't think that's an actually accurate description of the way things were, unless you're Honda, who did win in a dominant fashion from 1982 through 1996. And then they did that again. They made it retro, not just with the look, but with the actual numbers on paper, with one of the most dominant days in the 50-year history of the sport, going 1-2 in all four motos in both classes. Now, I usually drudge up some stats for these videos. I can't find a day where someone has replicated that. I thought maybe 2008 when Ryan Villopoto was dominating the 250F class in a Kawasaki and James Stewart went 24-0 in the 450 class. And Tim Ferry was also second place quite a bit to his teammate Stewart. And there were a bunch of Pro Circuit Kawasaki's that were also fast. They didn't have a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 day back then. I don't know exactly who has done this before, which gives you an idea of how dominant this was. But what does it actually mean? Because when you talk Team Honda, there's still that tint, that aura, that specter of those dominant days. And everyone who was around then, myself included, always thinks maybe someday it'll come back. So we'll explore that in this video. Is this a round one thing, or is this a dawn of a new era thing? First, shout out to our sponsor. This is anti-gravity batteries right here. Now, they're not actually anti-gravity. If you strap 30 of these to your motorcycle, it wouldn't fly like a hot air balloon. But it is lighter. This battery is lighter than the battery that comes in your stock bike. This one weighs about the same as comes in your stock bike, but it has a lot more cranking juice, so your bike's going to start faster. It'll sit in your garage, not trickle charged, and still start longer. You can even get with a built-in jump starter. So the 401 or the 801, the 4-cell, 8-cell, this super lightweight battery, by the way, the choice of the likes of Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, Monster Energy, Yamaha Star Racing, and Monster Energy Kawasaki. Go to antigravitybatteries.com. Now, let's talk about Honda and their dominance. I had the privilege, the pleasure, the unbelievable luck and great fortune to work in the TV booth over the weekend with Rick Johnson and Jeremy McGrath. Now that I mentioned the television show, you probably have some comments about there were too many commercials and maybe the MAV TV app didn't work properly. You can drop those in the comments section below. They have told me they will try to make the commercial situation better this weekend. We'll see. But when you have Rick Johnson and Jeremy McGrath in the booth, yeah, you have to think of the old school Honda days. And they were right there as part of it. In fact, I feel like McGrath was actually the end of what we officially remember as the glory days of Team Honda. Now, Ricky Carmichael actually came back and won some races and titles for that team, 2002 to 2004. But the Team Honda you remember as being dominant, at the helm was Dave Arnold as team manager, and Roger DeCoster was his right-hand man. That went from 82 into the McGrath era. And then when McGrath left in 96, the fortune started to sag. And ever since then, we've been waiting for the breakthrough. Now, Carmichael, he can win on anything. He did it. He got the job done. But Honda has not won a Premier Class championship in this sport since Carmichael left at the end of 2004. And since then, all the other major brands, sans Gas, who's too new, have won Premier Class championships. Yamaha's done it, Suzuki's done it, Kawasaki's done it. KTM and Husqvarna have done it. That's crazy. But Honda still has that tint, that aura, that specter that I was talking about, where when they win, we think they're going to start winning quite a bit. And they have a habit of starting seasons strong. This is probably the 12th time that we've thought it's the dawn of a new Honda era. After McGrath left and they were scorned, swore revenge. By 1999, Honda had a super team, and they went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the results at the opening round of the 1999 250 Nationals, led by Sebastian Tortelli in one of the all-time great rides, coming from about 30th to 1st in both motos. It looked like Tortelli and Honda were taking over the sport again. Tortelli didn't even win another race that year, and Honda didn't even win the title. Greg Albertine did. Ezra Lusk did serious damage early in that Supercross campaign in '99 as well, but McGrath on a Yamaha won the title. Early season Honda success, it goes on and on. 2013, Trey Canard almost won the opener on a magical night in Supercross, but Davey Millsaps edged him out. Then the next weekend, Justin Barcia, in only his second 450 Supercross race, won. And everybody thought, here it is. Barcia is the new McGrath. It's 20 years later. He is going to just start winning races as a rookie. He only won one more that year. Barcia never delivered a Supercross title for Honda, nor did Canard. Then we go to the Ken Roczen era. We remember the dominance at the beginning of 2017. Didn't result in a championship at the end of the year. Early this season alone, it was Roczen and Sexton battling for the lead and getting away from everybody else at Anaheim 1, and it didn't equate to a championship. Even when Sexton won round 3, it looked like another Barcia 2013 or another McGrath in 93. We know he has the talent, we know he has the skills, we know he has the speed. He didn't end up winning another race. And last year's opener at Pala, Roczen won the second moto. Sexton was this close to beating Dylan Ferrandis for the first moto win. This season started out so well for them, and the title slipped away. I don't understand how this pattern can repeat itself over and over, where Honda is so good at the beginning of the season, both indoors and out, and it doesn't result in titles. But it's worth mentioning and worth analyzing and worth thinking about. That's what we have to try to figure. Is this what seems to be inevitable takeover of this sport by Chase Sexton? He's younger than most of the riders he's battling. The riding style and talent is unbelievable. Or is this just another round 1 thing? Now, it's really hard to figure out when you go into the data for Lucas Oil Pro Motocross or the AMA Motocross Nationals because round 1 is all over the map. I've already made videos saying that Anaheim 1 or the Supercross opener is very, very unrealistic to how the season goes. You really got to get to round 3 or 4 or 5, I always say starting at round 3, to really know who the contenders are. But there are years in motocross where someone is great at round 1 and it is realistic to the rest of the year. Ferrandis won the opener last year. He won the title. Zach Osborne won the opener in 2020. He won the title. Let's look at the last 10 years of this series just to give a brief example of what we're talking about. So 2011, Chad Reed wins the opener. It was a great season early for him. Yes, leading the points on his Honda. Wasn't able to hold it to the end other than the famous catapult. In 2012, James Stewart comes back to the series, goes 1-1. It was spectacular. It was awesome. He would crash out of round 3. That was the end of that. 2013, Ryan Villopoto did win early and often and just dominated, so that was realistic. 2014, I mentioned that one. Dungey did win the overall, but Roczen was super fast, and it really showed Roczen would be a contender all year, and he ended up winning the title as a rookie. 2015, maybe the best outdoor ride we've ever seen when Eli Tomac won a moto at Hangtown by 90 seconds over Ryan Dungey, but he also crashed out at round 3, didn't win the title. Roczen was dominant all season long in 2016, and that even started at round 1. 2017, 2018, Eli Tomac was the best all year, started at the series opener. He's always good at Hangtown. Roczen won the opener in 2019, couldn't hold on to the end. And then I already mentioned 20 and 21, where they did portend 2 titles. So I'm going to say we're looking at like a 50-50. You have to remember some of the variables coming into the opener of Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. And when you think about those, you can think about maybe Sexton's win is a little more realistic. Some of these all-time crazy rides that we've seen in the opener, such as that Sebastian Tortelli Honda 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1999 dominance, come from riders who are out of contention in Supercross. In the case of the 99 Tortelli 30th to 1st in both motos, he didn't even race the last couple of rounds of Supercross due to, I think, a broken hand or wrist or something like that. We know that everyone is scrambling at the end of Supercross to try to get ready for motocross, and they don't have enough time, and they don't physically feel into the flow of outdoors, and their bikes usually aren't quite where they want them to be. So if anyone is a head start, either they kind of gave up on Supercross, they kept racing, but they were focused on outdoors during the week, or they didn't race motocross at all. Anyone who has that situation going in, it gives them a huge leg up going to round 1, and that's often what creates these anomalies. All-timer for me, you go back to 2010, Hangtown. Chad Reed comes in as a defending champion on the Kawasaki, wins the overall. Terrible for the rest of the summer. Reed won the first moto that day. The second moto at Hangtown was won by Mike Alessi on the failed experiment KTM 350. But he hole shot a moto and he won that day. And I remember Alessi saying in the press conference, I think we answered a lot of questions about the 350. Mike, as he tends to do, was crowing on quite a bit about how well he rode. And then Chad Reed had to remind him in the press conference that Chad was actually the overall winner for the day. In a typical sarcastic Chad Reed fashion, he said, did I win the race or did he win the race? Anyway, it was pretty funny, but in the end, what we thought was going to be a Chad versus Alessi rivalry throughout the summer meant nothing, because Ryan Dungey struggled at round 1 that day at Hangtown and then won round 2 and then dominated the rest of the season. Alessi didn't race Supercross at the end of the year in 2010, and Reed came back at the very end of Supercross after an injury, wasn't really focused on it. He was hammering down Motocross. You do see that situation sometimes where they just have a head start in round 1. But that's not the case for Chase Sexton. Oh no, he was in it all the way to the end, trying to win Supercross races. I don't think he had an extra level of prep compared to anyone else. Roczen certainly did, but Roczen is always good at round 1, regardless of the situation. So that makes the Sexton deal a little more realistic in my mind that he can replicate this. But with Sexton, you have to talk about the crashes that have happened before. And when he took the lead over Roczen in the first moto, it was a scary moment. He overjumped, landed in some braking bumps, and that was a 50-50. Going to pass for the lead or going to crash out of the lead.
If he was trying to take him out, he would have drove through him. And there we see Sexton just overjump and send it, get into full head shake. But then it was the Chase Sexton show.
And those are the situations that Sexton has been trying to balance here since he's been in the 450 for the last 2 seasons. So does it portend to more of this or more of that? We'll see at the end of the year when Honda doesn't have the retro look on the bike, if they're going to have retro results.